To water consistently and well in the landscape is actually a little more difficult than it might seem. We talk a lot about not using your automatic irrigation system for your turf for landscape plants. You can certainly use one that is zoned for those landscape plants, but what we often see is we see people with their thumb on the end of the hose or a nozzle on the end of the hose just going like this and assuming that that is going to give those plants enough water. It's particularly important to send them into the winter months with enough moisture so that those pore spaces in the soil don't dry out, causing the roots to dry out and then causing that plant to show winter desiccation. So what you really want to do is you want to have a good idea about how much volume your own hose is putting out if you're using a hose or a sprayer on the end of the hose. And then you want to make sure you have actually tested that soil by using a chaining pin or a screwdriver or your finger if you can dig it in there deep enough, or something like a stake just to drive that down into the ground and see whether it goes in easily. If it does, you have applied enough water at the right level for those plants. One of the things that we also recommend with people is that you turn on your hose at the volume that you think you're going to be using in your landscape if you're hand watering or spot watering. Count by seconds how long it takes at that volume to fill up a 5-gallon bucket. And then you can actually apply that in the landscape if you're using, again, that same volume on the end of the hose. We see people turn on a nozzle at full blast and just blaze away at plants. That can actually do a lot of damage, especially if your soil is extremely dry and you have any sand content or any light content in it at all. It can blow that soil right away from the roots and expose them. So again, you want to make sure that you know how much volume of water, how much you're applying. Even if you're doing it by hand, you want low and slow if at all possible, rather than assuming you can take care of an entire landscape in 15 or 20 minutes at the most. It's going to take you a fair amount of time to apply the right amount of water at the crown of the plant. For newly established or newly planted trees and shrubs, especially in the fall of the year, it is really important to make sure that water is going in the root zone as well as saturating the surrounding soil.